Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Ahmed with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. India has become the first nation to cross 400,000 COVID-19 infections in a day. The country also recorded more than 3,500 deaths in the last 24 hours. Pakistan has registered more than 4,600 cases and 146 deaths overnight, with a toll approaching 18,000. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 151 million others. Chad's ruling military claims it has wiped out several hundred rebels over 2 days of fighting near the northern town of Nukur. The council said it took around 60 rebels as captives, while 6 of the soldiers were killed. In Myanmar, deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has completed the 3rd month under military-ordered house arrest. Meanwhile, UN envoy Christine Schraner Bergener says the country risks coming to a standstill as violence worsens. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed at least 759 protesters in the crackdown on dissent. In China, at least 11 people have died and 102 others injured after a hail thunderstorm hit Jiangsu province. Officials say rescuers have evacuated more than 3,000 people in Nantong city. These were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. India has become the first nation to cross 400,000 COVID-19 infections in a day. The country also recorded more than 3,500 deaths in the last 24 hours. While globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 150 million others. More about the pandemic in this report.
India's COVID-19 crisis has plunged the country into an unprecedented catastrophe. While medical experts say real numbers may be 5 to 10 times higher than the official tally. A government forum of scientific advisors says the center ignored warnings of more contagious variants in early March. Meanwhile, in yet another fire at hospital treating coronavirus patients, 18 people, including 2 healthcare workers, have died in western Gujarat state. Several Indian states say they have run out of vaccines.
The companies manufacturing vaccines, the Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute India, will not be able to deliver their doses on May 1. So that is why the vaccination drive in Madhya Pradesh will not begin from May 1.
The US has imposed new travel restrictions on India from May 4th, barring the entry of most non-US citizens. In Rio de Janeiro, 400 empty body bags lined the sand of a beach as an NGO protested against Brazil becoming the second country to pass 400,000 deaths. The World Health Organization has warned that South America has been suffering from a complicated and severe COVID-19 crisis.
Since the beginning of November, Brazil has experienced an acute crisis with increasing cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, including among younger people. During April, intensive care units have been at almost full capacity across the country.
WHO also warned that it is still far away from its goal of equitable vaccine access, and supplies sent to COVAX are not sufficient. This comes as the US officially crossed the 100 million mark of people who are fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, in England, thousands hit a rave in Liverpool as part of a government-backed trial to restart mass audience events.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has reported 146 more deaths from COVID-19 and almost 4,700 infections during the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the nationwide death toll is approaching 18,000. Over 825,000 people have contracted the virus so far, out of which more than 717,000 have recovered. The number of active cases has crossed 90,000 and nearly 5,500 are in critical condition. Amid the surge in cases, the government has decided to reduce inbound international flights to 20%. The NCOC said the revised plan will be effective from May 5th to May 20th. Meanwhile, Pakistan has also confirmed the first cases of the Brazilian and South African variants in Sindh province. Moving on, now, Chad's ruling military claims it has wiped out several hundred rebels over 2 days of fighting near the northern town of Nakou. In a statement, the council said it took around 60 rebels as captives. The military said 6 of its soldiers died in the fighting, while 22 others were injured. The council added it has successfully repelled a rebel incursion towards Nakou. It said the search for the final fugitives continues. The Transitional Military Council seized power after former President Idris Deby's death and promised to hold elections within 18 months. The northern rebels have rejected the council and are fighting the army in the desert. Now, Afghanistan's High Council for National Reconciliation has reiterated support for a quick restart of the intra-Afghan talks. In a tweet, Council head Abdullah said Kabul looks forward to the reduction of violence in the country.
Abdullah welcomed the statement released by the extended Troika. Earlier, envoys from the US, Russia, China, Pakistan and the Taliban met in Doha to discuss ways to support intra-Afghan talks. US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said Washington welcomes positive engagement by Troika members. In a joint statement, the participants said only Afghan-led and Afghan-owned political settlement can ensure lasting peace. They called on the Taliban to reduce violence and urged the Afghan government to engage openly with their Taliban counterparts. The envoy said all parties must respect their obligations under international humanitarian law in all circumstances.
Now, in Afghanistan, clashes between the Taliban and Afghan army erupted after the former attacked a military outpost in Ghazni city. Provincial officials say the outpost has fallen to the Taliban, whereas the Taliban claim they have also arrested 20 soldiers. Earlier, a blast targeted an Afghan army division at Baghram airfield of the Parwan province. Officials say 18 soldiers sustained minor injuries in the explosion. The recent surge in attacks on the army coincides with the withdrawal of foreign forces from Afghanistan. Afghan security forces are on high alert for any possible attacks on retreating US troops. Now, in Iraq, at least 4 soldiers have been killed in a bomb attack that targeted a military vehicle in the capital, Baghdad. The Iraqi Defense Ministry says a bomb detonated during an operation carried out by security forces in the Al-Tarmiyah district. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far, but ISIS terrorists have stepped up attacks since the start of 2021. They are targeting the Kirkuk, Saladin and Diyala regions in particular. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the U.S. needs to prepare for future conflicts which will be very different from the past. The Pentagon chief delivered his first significant policy speech during a trip to Hawaii-based U.S. Pacific Command. Austin said the old wars long consumed the Pentagon and called for harnessing technological advances. He stressed the need for better integrating military operations globally to understand, decide and act faster. The secretary said Washington's response to conflicts could be indirect. He outlined a scenario in which cyber warfare could be used to respond to a maritime security incident hundreds of miles away. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Washington and its allies seek a more constructive relationship with Russia. However, the top U.S. diplomat called on Moscow to honor its international commitments. In a tweet, Blinken said the U.S. condemns Russia's entry ban on EU officials. He termed the move as yet another attempt by Moscow to intimidate its critics. Earlier, Brussels said the latest Russian sanctions on 8 EU individuals seek a confrontation. In a joint statement, the EU leaders termed the move groundless and said it targets the bloc rather than individuals. Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo has declared a state of siege in eastern Ituri and North Kivu provinces. A government spokesperson said the move aims to end the unrest claiming lives every day. The spokesperson said details of the measures will be released publicly in the next few hours. Earlier, President Félix Tshisekedi said he was preparing of radical measures to deal with the security situation. An estimated 122 armed groups of varying sizes operate in mineral-rich eastern DRC. The violent clashes have killed hundreds since the start of 2021 and displaced more than 1.5 million people. Now moving on to Myanmar, where the pro-democracy activists are holding rallies across the country, marking 3 months of the coup. In Moniva Sagaing region, protesters held a May Day strike against the military junta. Protesters also rallied in Mandalay City and the southern town of Dai Wei. There were reports of several small blasts in different places, including Yangon. Meanwhile, UN envoy Christine Schreiner-Bergner says the country risks coming to a standstill as violence worsens. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed at least 759 protesters in the crackdown on dissent. Now in China, at least 11 people have died and 102 others injured after a hail thunderstorm hit Jiangsu province. Officials said rescuers have evacuated more than 3,000 people in Nantong city. Reportedly, the extreme weather has affected more than 13,000 people in several cities. Strong winds during a thunderstorm downed trees led to the collapse of buildings and blew people into the river. Elsewhere, 11 people drowned after their fishing boat capsized. 2 of them have been rescued while the search for 9 still missing is underway. After overnight repair, the power supply has been resumed in some areas and the debris clearing is underway. Now in Colombia, protesters turned out to pressure the government to abandon a planned tax reform proposal that has sparked public anger. People threw Molotov cocktails and rocks in Bogota as riot police used tear gas and a water cannon. Demonstrators blocked streets with burning barricades and scattered debris across roads. Bogota altered its proposed tax reforms to not include sales tax on food, utilities and gasoline. Officials say the government is willing to modify the reform but will not withdraw it, as the passage of this bill is key to stabilizing public finances and keeping social programs running. Now, Turkey has started construction of the second Milgem-class corvette warship for the Pakistan Navy. Pakistan Navy Commodore Ehsan Ahmed Khan attended the keel-laying ceremony in Istanbul. Speaking at the occasion, Khan termed the event as a defining moment for the two strategically aligned nations. Meanwhile, Islamabad says China has also begun the construction of a third 054A frigate for the Pakistan Navy. A ceremony to this effect was held at the Hudong Chonghua shipyard. A Navy spokesperson said both the ships will be laced with modern technology equipped with sensors. He said the induction of these ships will help maintain a balance of power in the Indian Ocean. More news coming up in this news bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, in the U.S. state of Texas, police say they have found more than 90 people crammed into a 2-story home in Houston. They suspect the home was being used in a human smuggling operation. Talking to the media, Houston Police Assistant Chief Darren Edwards said officers were responding to reports of a kidnapping. Edwards noted several victims showed symptoms of COVID-19 infections, including fever. He added all persons, comprising women mostly, have been removed from the house. No arrests have been made so far, but Homeland Security investigations will lead a smuggling probe. German NGO Sea-Watch International says it has rescued 308 migrants off the Libyan coast in the last 48 hours. In a statement, the NGO said they found 4 boats in distress in the Mediterranean Sea. It said the migrants, including women and minors, were adrift at sea in rubber boats. According to the UN, some 480 people have perished in the central Mediterranean so far this year. President Arif Alvi has reiterated Pakistan's commitment to improving the living conditions of workers. In a message on International Labour Day, Alvi paid tribute to workers' struggle for fundamental rights. Prime Minister Imran Khan said the government aims to develop automated and integrated systems for worker welfare institutions. Khan said this will ensure transparency and curtail delays in providing relief to the employees. The International Labour Organization says the COVID-19 pandemic has destroyed jobs, enterprises and livelihoods. Organization's head Guy Ryder called for global solidarity for an equitable recovery from the pandemic. However, due to COVID-19 restrictions globally, significantly fewer activities will be held today. But in Indonesia, thousands vented their anger at the new job creation law, saying it harms their rights and welfare. New York Empire State Building celebrates its 90th anniversary on Saturday. Many celebrities and sporting icons have posed for the paparazzi on the 86th floor observation deck. During the Great Depression in just 1 year and 45 days for almost now 40 years, from 1931 until 1970, it claimed the title of the world's tallest building. Now the building is the 7th tallest in New York. It hosted popular annual events like the Valentine's Day weddings and the Empire State Building run-up before COVID-19. Now, the Bonhams auction house in New York City is set to sell the works of Pablo Picasso's Camille, Pissarro and Yayoi Kusama. The Impressionist and the Modern Art sale is scheduled for May 13 and the Kusama sale is scheduled for 12th of May. Pablo Picasso's painting, Femme Mauve, a portrait of his lover, Mary Therese Waltenot, has not been seen publicly since 1984. It is ready to be auctioned and has a pre-sale estimate of $10 to $15 million. The auction also includes Camille Pissarro's La Rosa, a painting of his Dutch servant, one of his most exquisite works. Pissarro's painting is reported to have a pre-sale estimate of $1.5 to $2 million. Also, a never-before-seen collection of his works by Yayoi Kusama will hit the auction block. Kusama's bold, bright red Hudson River and Mississippi River have pre-sale estimates of $3 to $5 million. Her untitled painting, a precursor to her Infinity Rooms series, has a pre-sale estimate of $2.5 to $3.5 million. Now in China, a light show in Wuhan, once hit hard by COVID-19, depicts the city's strong recovery from the coronavirus outbreak. Let's find out more in this report.
Wuhan decorated its night sky to send a message of hope and innovation to the world. The city is putting on the show under its Tech and Innovation Center, an area called Optics Valley, during the 5-day Labor Day holiday. Buildings along China's longest river, the Yangtze, have been lit up.
We'd like to invite all friends from across the world to Wuhan to enjoy this light show and make them feel the rebirth of the Optics Valley and all the city, as well as the vitality and vigor in economic recovery.
Wuhan's GDP had contracted greatly in the first quarter of 2020, but has managed a robust rebound since the lift of the 76-day lockdown. The economic growth of the city is especially reflected in the high-tech manufacturing industry, with a 5-fold increase in investment compared with early last year.
Now in the Netherlands, retired shopkeepers Liz Lutz and Harry Dekkers have received the keys to the country's first 3D printed house. The bungalow was printed in 24 parts in a nearby factory before being assembled on a plot in Eindhoven. The new tenants of the first 3D printed house in the Netherlands took a tour of the 2-bedroom concrete bungalow. They admired its undulating walls and sober grey aesthetic, which designers say are meant to evoke a large boulder.
I find it just pretty. An irregularity in the wall, it's like there was a stutter here and then the printing went on. It is really pretty. We feel very good here. I find the colors magnificent. The interior's colors are very pure. It is very good.
Grooves where the printer shuttled back and forth can be seen clearly on the walls of the 94 square meter building.
With this small construction behind us, I think a big step has been taken today towards a high-quality construction industry. With this technology, that is to say, digitalization technology, we have greatly contributed to bringing more versatility, sustainability, and health to the construction industry.
Designers say the house fully complies with Dutch building standards. It is the first of 5 in what they dub Project Milestone, with designs set to become more sophisticated as they build on the knowledge gained. In cricket, Zimbabwe are 42 for the loss of no wickets in their second innings in the first Test match against Pakistan in Harare. The hosts trailed the visitors by 208 runs. Musara Barani took 4 while Donald Tiripano bagged 3 wickets for Zimbabwe. Now in football, 10-man Southampton held Leicester City to a 1-1 draw, frustrating the Foxes in their push for a top 4 finish in the Premier League. The draw leaves Leicester in 3rd place with 63 points, 5 ahead of 4th place Chelsea. Southampton's Yannick Westergaard was shown a red card for a last-ditch tackle on JB Vardy just after 10 minutes. But the Saints took the lead in the 61st minute after James Ward-Prowse scored from the penalty spot. Leicester equalised 7 minutes later when Johnny Evans headed in to salvage a point for the Foxes. Southampton have now climbed to 14th place and are 10 points clear of the relegation zone. And RB Leipzig beat Werder Bremen 2-1 to reach the German Cup final in their bid to win their first major trophy. Leipzig will now clash with either Borussia Dortmund or Holstein Kiel for the title on 13th of May in Berlin. Leipzig dominated throughout but had to wait until the 93rd minute when He Chan Wang fired them into the lead. Bremen leveled 12 minutes later with Leonardo Bettercount steering the ball home from inside the penalty area. But Leipzig had the last laugh as substitute Emil Forsberg netted their winner with a penalty shootout. The second semi-final will be played between Borussia Dortmund and Holstein Kiel today. And now in Russia, a brutal bare-knuckle boxing tournament has surged in popularity on social networks during the pandemic. Let's find out in this report.
Bare-knuckle fights are the new trend in Russia. The Top Dog tournament, which began broadcasting fights in parking lots in early 2020, now rents out a Moscow sports arena. Millions watch online as fighters with bloodied fists go at each other inside rings circled by haystacks. The most popular fight yet has been viewed over 30 million times on YouTube.
It's tough for people. They're angry. There is also this quarantine. Everyone is constantly under some sort of restriction. There is also a financial crisis. People are generally in a stressful environment with nowhere to let it out. When they see something like this, it eases the tension.
The fights are split by gender and involve 3 rounds of 2 minutes each. Organizers say the tournament is also drawing foreign viewers, with the second highest audience coming from the US.
When you are a part of something that is considered super masculine, very tough, and you take part in it on par with the boys, it is understandable that we are different. So we do some things differently. But we do the same work and we put in the same effort. We are in the same conditions. When I am on par with the boys, I understand that I am on the same level.
The organizers reject criticism that the bouts are dangerous for athletes. They say that, unlike gloved boxers, who receive more punches and are vulnerable to long-term injuries like brain damage, bare-knuckle fighters get flesh wounds that can heal.
And now let's have a look at how the weather is doing around the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.